is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
In terms of a leader, I mean, obviously, I look at someone who's a hard worker, has the respect of their teammates, holds people accountable, doesn't make excuses, doesn't point fingers, and someone who has kind of a mental toughness about them.
Kyle Jurgens has been the head boys basketball coach at Skutt Catholic High School in Omaha, Nebraska for 11 years. During his tenure, the Skyhawks have won 3 state championships in 2014, 2020, and 2023. Kyle started his coaching career at Millard North High School, where he was the varsity assistant for the basketball, football, and soccer teams for 8 years. Jurgens graduated from Nebraska Wesleyan University, where he played soccer and earned a degree in mathematics. He attended North Platte High School and was a 3-sport athlete in football, basketball, and soccer. Hey, Hoopheads, I wanted to take a minute to shout out our partners and friends at Dr. Dish Basketball. Their Dr. Dish shooting machines are undoubtedly the most advanced and user-friendly machines on the market. Learn more at drdishbasketball.com and follow their incredible content at Dr. Dish B-Ball on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Mention the Hoopheads podcast and save an extra $300 on the Dr. Dish Rebel, All-Star, and CT models. Visit drdishbasketball.com for details. That's a great deal, Hoopheads. Get your Dr. Dish shooting machine today.
Hi, this is Joe Crispin, head men's basketball coach at Rowan University, and you're listening to the Hoopheads podcast.
Prepare like the pros with the all-new Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Fast Draw has been the #1 play diagramming software for coaches for years. You'll quickly see why Fast Model Sports has the most compelling and intuitive basketball software out there. For a limited time, Fast Model is offering Hoopheads listeners 15% off Fast Draw and Fast Scout. Just use the code HHP15 at checkout to grab your discount, and you'll be on your way to more efficient game prep and improved communication with your team. Fast Model also has new coaching content every week on its blog, plus play and drill diagrams on its play bank. Check out the links in the show notes for more. Fast Model Sports is the best in basketball. Be prepared to take some notes as you listen to this episode with Kyle Jurgens, head boys basketball coach at Skutt Catholic High School in Omaha, Nebraska. Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sunkel tonight, and we are pleased to welcome Kyle Jurgens, head boys basketball coach at Skutt Catholic High School in Omaha, Nebraska. Kyle, welcome to the Hoopheads pod.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
We are thrilled to have you on. Looking forward to diving into all the things that you've been able to do thus far in your coaching career. I want to start by going back in time to when you were a kid. Tell me about some of your early experiences in the game of basketball, what you remember, what made you fall in love with it.
Sure. Well, grew up in a house where sports were a big deal, and probably started with my dad and cousins and uncles, and I mean, anytime we got together, it was, depending on the season, pickle in the backyard, or throwing the football around, or shooting hoops, or what have you. But I got the love of the game for sure from my dad. He taught me how to throw a baseball, football, shoot a basketball, all those types of things. So just grew up, with athletics kind of all around. And my dad still kind of played them when I was younger, in the slow pitch softball days and the pickup basketball days. You tagged along with those types of things. And then I grew up in a neighborhood with, a bunch of kids that we had a lot across the way, and we'd go play, baseball there and meet at everybody's, people's houses and play basketball. Some of the stuff that probably needs to happen more, in this day and age.
Absolutely.
Playing out in the driveway. And so, yeah, I think, you had a coach, TJ O'Connor, on earlier in the fall. We grew up, 3 houses from each other. And so he's a head coach now here in Omaha as well. And so I can remember his uncle's the college coach out at the community college. We would go out there and watch games. And as you got older, the high school that I was going to attend, going and watching those games and just kind of looking at those guys. And that's some of the stuff we talk to our guys about too, is, don't get caught up in these, these little kids that are here watching you. They're looking up and they want to be you someday. And that was kind of me. I always watched those high school guys and said, man, I can't wait to play on that floor someday. And so that's kind of where it originated from me. And that was always the dream in high school to be a varsity basketball player, and was fortunate enough to be.
I know you ended up playing soccer in college, but as you grew up, which of the sports was your favorite? Because oftentimes there's a sport that maybe you're the best at, but maybe it's not necessarily your favorite. Did your allegiances switch as you got older? Just kind of how did you navigate which one was your favorite, which one you were playing, which season, how much you practiced outside of it? Just give me a rundown.
Yeah, you basically nailed it. When I was younger, it was just whatever I was playing, I loved. But as I got older, I was pretty unique in that I was a 4-sport kid. In that the high school I went to, I played football in the fall, basketball in the winter, soccer was in the spring, and our high school did not have spring baseball, only Legion baseball in the summer, and I played Legion baseball in the summer. And I did that up until the summer before my senior year. I decided not to play baseball. I also had injuries in there too. When I was a sophomore, I tore my ACL returning a punt in maybe the first or second football game of the season. Kind of retweaked it again. And so that took me out most of my sophomore year because I had to wait to get surgery on it. And so that took me out of all of football my sophomore year, basketball and soccer. And then I played baseball that summer, not redid my ACL, but I had to have it scoped again. So I didn't get to play much of my junior year of football either. So my football, I played as a freshman and then I played as a senior. But then was able to play, the rest of them as a junior and senior. I mean, basketball was always my first love. It's what I love to play the most. I got recruited. To play football, basketball, and soccer. Soccer was probably what I was best at. I mean, football I'd had to get a lot bigger and a little bit the same in basketball too. But I loved them all. And probably one of the biggest reasons I quit the summer before my senior year in terms of baseball is we had a really good team and there was about 8 or 9 of us seniors. And our coach had come from California, had coached high school basketball in California. And he was going to take us to Omaha to a few team camps. And then we piled in a 15-passenger van, like 9 of us, my coach, his wife, his kids, and we drove all the way out to California. And we were out there for about a week. We played a bunch of old high schools that he used to play against when he coached out there. And I really didn't want to miss those experiences playing baseball. And so, and because the rest of those seniors were basketball players, I was kind of the multi-sport guy. But it was huge for us because, you can imagine 24 hours in a 15-passenger van, you get to know each other pretty well. You become,
absolutely,
talk about becoming a family. Those types of things were big. And then that following year, my senior year, we had a really good basketball season. Still, I think at the high school, North Platte High School, where I went, still I think the best, record-wise, best season in school history. We got beat in the semifinals of the state basketball tournament in the highest class in Nebraska. And, those are the memories that stick with you. Talk about high school and basketball. Playing in the state tournament is, something I'll never, ever forget. And we must have played in a semifinal game in front of 8,000 to 10,000 people. And those are just things that you don't get to do. If you go on to play college basketball, at some smaller colleges, you're not going to play in those types of atmospheres. And so environments, and it was just really, really special. And it was a special group. It's one of the biggest things I remember about, my high school career.
Were you still in touch with a lot of your high school classmates, teammates?
Yeah. So one of them ended up my roommate for a couple of years in college. And he, coincidentally, he was like my next door neighbor growing up. And then another one is a coach in a small town right outside of Omaha. He's a head coach, and it was cool because we both, he and I, so we're in Class B, which is one class below the highest class in Nebraska, and he's in there's C1 and C2. So C1's the next class down, and his school's in C1, and they won the state championship last year, and so did we. And so a lot of people didn't know that we were high school. Like we started on our high school team together growing up, and his dad was our, we had kind of a little travel team when we were in middle school. His dad was our coach growing up. So that was pretty cool deal too. So yeah, stay in touch with him and yeah, a lot of the other guys too. One of the other guys just got the head coaching job at the high school we attended. He was the JV coach there for a long time, and that guy stepped down, and now he's the head coach there. So stay in touch with him too. So yeah, a lot of connections there, a lot of special relationships.
Talk a little bit about the college decision process and how you ended up at Nebraska Wesleyan and how it ended up being soccer as opposed to the other sports that obviously you had a passion for all of them.
Yeah, I did. And I just had a pretty good year in soccer when I was a senior. And, the coach recruited me, pretty hard, and they were successful too. And, I was looking at some smaller colleges, football wise, basketball wise in Nebraska, but Nebraska Wesleyan's in Lincoln, where the University of Nebraska is. And so I liked that it was a smaller college, but still in kind of that college town atmosphere. I liked that, when I took my visit, I liked the campus, I liked the school, and, I liked that they had some good players and were going to be successful. And we were. I went there and played soccer, and we made the NCAA tournament every single year we were there. And so, yeah, I think it was just kind of a deal where that was kind of what I was best at, but still never stopped playing basketball. And that was kind of the cool thing is I found a bunch of kids in college who were pretty good high school players, and we would play pickup and, all meet at the gym at the same time on certain days and, get some pretty good pickup games, was always a good time. And then, still kind of had that passion for, coaching kids. When I was in high school, my little brother was probably a sixth grader. And so I coached his team, and I had a lot of fun with that. And when I went to college, I started pre-med, did that for about a semester, and then just kind of felt, it wasn't maybe the right path for me. Just kind of still felt a calling to, athletics. Just that they were such a big part of my life, and I didn't know. I just thought I didn't really want to do something that wasn't going to allow me to be around them. And I really, really did enjoy the coaching, and so I switched to education and was always, pretty good at math. Kind of the guy who helped people in class a lot, and so I thought I would do the math route. And my high school basketball coach, his name's Dan Moore. He actually just retired he actually moved to Omaha, got another job here in Omaha and just retired, but he was a math teacher and a head basketball coach. So you can imagine he had a big influence on me and someone I really looked up to. And, obviously I'm a head basketball coach and a math teacher. So, that kind of says it right there.
When you think about your experience as a college athlete and you talk to players that you may have had in your career that want to be college athletes, what's one or two pieces of advice or things that you tell them as they're going through their process of being recruited, maybe something that you learned from your experience?
Yeah, just to kind of, make sure you do your due diligence just on everything. You're not just going there for, whatever it is, football, basketball, you're going there for the school, you're going there for the experience, you're going there for the people. And so just to make sure that, you're doing it kind of for the right reasons and it's something that you feel really, really good about because, you only get to do it once. And, I say that and kids kind of transfer all over the place now. So, but it's, you hope you're trying to find the right fit for you. And, so that's kind of what I encouraged our guys who get recruited basketball wise. And we've had some good basketball players just go to school, but of late we've had some, go on to the next level. And, our two better players from last year, one's at South Dakota and then one's at Wayne State, a Division II college around here. I think they both kind of found a really, really good fit, and they're, they seem to love it. They love the guys they're playing with, the coaches, the school. I've kept in contact, and they're, they're fitting in, I think, to the programs real well too. So I think that's probably the last thing is make sure, you're a good fit with, style of play, kind of, wherever you're going, what they kind of lean on, stand for type of deal. And I think those two guys did a really good job of that. But those are always things that you want to encourage guys to do because, it's not just basketball or whatever sport you're playing. There's a lot of other things that go with it.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think sometimes kids, and I think even oftentimes parents, sometimes get caught up in just looking at one aspect, whether it's that, and primarily you're thinking about sport. And we all know how much time that parents pour into their kids and what they do in youth sports. As you said 15 minutes ago, we could probably use, and this has been a frequent topic here on the pod, Kyle, is we could probably use some more pickup in the driveway, at the playground, at the sandlot. We could probably use more sports like that where parents aren't always there. But the reality is that era is maybe not completely gone, but it's disappearing at a pretty quick rate. And so because parents are so invested in their sports career, I think oftentimes you see people are so focused on the sports side of it that they forget that, hey, you got to go to school there too, and that there's the social environment, the academic environment, all those things are so critical in finding the right fit. And I love when you said, hey, you got to do your due diligence. And I think that really is great advice for any high school athlete that's out there, no matter what sport you're looking at, is just to make sure that you consider all the options and figure it out and make a good choice based on really looking into what it is that you're going to do, because otherwise you can end up in a situation where it's not the best for you, and then you have to transfer. And there's a whole bunch of different things that go along with that.
Well, it's like
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's like you're saying. You got to let them figure it out, for themselves a little bit too. And that goes back to the driveways. Like we're trying to do, everything for these kids and figure it out for them. And back in the day, we kind of, you left the house, you went out, and you played in the driveway, or you figured it out. You figured it out on your own. And there's not a lot of that. And so kids struggle with that when they have to do it on their own. It's been kind of done for them. And so I agree 100% with everything you just said.
Yeah, I'm sure you see that as a teacher. Jason teaches fourth grade, and I'm right now teaching elementary phys ed. And you see it just in their ability to navigate for themselves. And you think about you and your friends playing on the driveway or playing backyard football or whatever, and you kind of got to agree to a set of rules and what's out of bounds, and you got to govern yourselves. And kids today, they honestly don't really have very many opportunities, mostly not necessarily of their own fault, but our fault as parents and as society, that it's more difficult. Kids just don't have the opportunity to be put in those positions where they have to kind of organize themselves and then work it out when there is a disagreement, because there's almost always an adult there to step in or intervene or organize. And I do think that, again, I don't know exactly what the ramifications of that are in terms of how the generation of kids that's growing up today, how that's going to impact them as older athletes, but also as just adults. But I got to believe that there's something that's missing that our generation learned just by doing those things out and about without parents. And kids today, and I say this all the time, my own kids included, they just don't, it's not that they don't want to do that. They just don't get the opportunity, because we as parents don't parent in the same way that parents did in the 80s and early 90s, where you can just kind of go out and be outside and running around. And now, you want to know where your kids are every moment of the day. So
I'm laughing because my wife, I got a 6-year-old, and she'll be downstairs with, and you'll hear a bunch of squawking, and all of a sudden they'll come up, and I'll go, no, you guys go back down there and figure it out. Like, my wife will try to start, and I'm like, no, don't do that. They can go back downstairs and you guys figure it out. Like, they can figure it out on their own. It's been done before. Trust me.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, it's just there's a different expectation that we have as parents. And I think in some ways we're doing them a tremendous disservice by not allowing them to do that. And I get, to a certain extent, when I think about just the way I grew up and kind of having free reign around in the neighborhood. And then as I got older, driving around the city of Cleveland to different playgrounds and parks and places with my friends and gyms. Yeah. And I think about my own son doing that same thing. And I'm not sure, look, if he could do it in the environments that I was doing right. I guess looking back at it, was it safe? Was it not safe? I don't know. I never perceived it as not being safe. Maybe it wasn't by today's standards. I have no idea when I think about it. But by the same token, like I said, we just don't give our kids that same opportunity to do those things the way that previous generations got the opportunity to do that. And the ship has sailed. I don't think it's ever going back. So I guess I always look at it as, okay, how can we maximize the situation that we have? And your example that you just gave with your daughters is a great example of a way to, in a safe environment, put the onus back on them. Like, hey, you're going to be safe in our basement to work this out and maybe argue a little bit and come up with a solution. And they're not out on the streets doing whatever, but they're still learning those skills. And I think that's an important piece of what we as adults, coaches, teachers, parents, it's part of our responsibility. Let's go back to when you graduated and tell me a little bit about your job search. looking around, okay, you've obviously been an athlete your whole life, and now athletics is going to go away in terms of you being a player on a school team. You could still obviously play pickup and get involved in that way, but you're going into a different phase of your life. So tell me a little bit about the job search when you graduate.
Yeah. So, I did, when I switched to education, I did some coaching, around Lincoln. I coached some soccer. There's one of the Class A is the highest, level in Nebraska. There's quite a few in Lincoln. And so I helped coach some summer basketball, for one of those, schools in Lincoln. When I student taught, I coached, football, flag football, and then the 8th grade basketball team at the place that I, student taught. So I had some experience there. And then, because I took that extra semester, I actually graduated in December. And so I had second semester to do some subbing, and kind of, apply to different places. So my first job interview was at a school in Omaha called Millard North. It's one of the bigger high schools, in Nebraska. And I actually had another interview at Millard West, which coincidentally is where my wife teaches now. And so I went to Millard North. Actually, my car broke down on the way from Lincoln to Omaha on my first job interview ever. And I had to pull over, change a tire. It's a long story. There was construction. I ended up having to call and say there's no chance I can get there. And they just said, well, come back tomorrow. And I said, okay. I mean, I was in a, full suit on the side of the road sweating. And
it's always fun. That's always
fun. So I went back the next day and just had a great conversation with the principal, the head of the math department, and then another guy in the math department who, again, coincidentally now, he was my mentor, my math teacher mentor when I got to, they pair you up with kind of a veteran teacher. And he's now my athletic director at Skutt. So kind of crazy how things kind of come full circle, but just had a great, interview, if you could call it that. It was more of a conversation around a table. And I, thought, man, I really like this place. And, probably Lincoln or Omaha was where I kind of wanted to end up. And I knew one of the basketball coach at Millard North, he had come from a school in Lincoln Northeast. And when I was in high school, we played against them, and both we were very good and they were very good. And so he knew who I was from, putting me on a scouting report. And so I had a kind of relationship there right away. And he was, totally open to me, coaching basketball. I talked to the football coach who's, he's one of the better football coaches in the state of Nebraska, in my opinion. He's kind of a legend around here, just retired after 41 years after this season. And he allowed me to coach football. And then same with the soccer coach. I told him I played in soccer and I wanted to help out. And they had no paid positions open. So they did on the girl side. And I just said, well, that's not really the, avenue I'm looking to go. So I ended up my first year, I ended up volunteer coaching football, basketball, and soccer. So I made no money for it, but I coached all 3 seasons. So, I mean, I dove in head first, I guess, as you can say, because I did 3 sports there for 8 years. So it's a lot, but Absolutely. I enjoyed every second of it and got a lot out of, all those experiences.
All right. So just in general, and obviously you're coaching 3 different sports and there's 3 different sets of circumstances and 3 different head coaches that you're working with. But when you think about your time as an assistant, what are 1 or 2 lessons that you learned as an assistant that you feel like made you a better head coach once you got that opportunity?
Oh man, that's like picking a couple out of so many. The the guy that I coached for football and basketball, the 2 guys I coached for, were number one, incredible with kids. I mean, they knew how to motivate kids. They knew how to get kids to respond, and incredibly hard workers too. And so I think the first thing I learned is the work that it took to do it. And I say do it, but do it the right way. I mean, if you're going to do it the right way, you can't be afraid to put the time in. And that's something that they taught me right away, is that, you got to be here, and you got to be here every day. You got to show up for the kids, because that's the only way they're going to respect you. And that's the only way they're going to work hard for you. And that was something that I learned right away, is what it took to do it at that level. And then just bits and pieces along the way of you can know everything there is to know about basketball and the X's and O's and all that stuff. But at the high school level, you better be able to get them to play hard night in, night out, practice hard, do everything at an effort level that's consistently working hard. And then I think, doing everything for the team. I mean, that's the other thing is, putting your ego in your pocket and